Welcome to the Psych Gym. I'm your trainer, Vanessa Perry, a former mental health therapist turned intuitive counselor. Much like a physical gym, in this space we'll aim to target specific psychological muscles and train them to be stronger. I'm so glad you are joining this gym. Let's hit the weights.
Hello, and welcome back to the Psych Gym. You can probably hear it in my voice that I am not 100%. I'm recording this with some sort of colds or allergies. I don't really know. It's my first summer in Kentucky, so a lot of these allergens are brand new to my body, so I don't really know what's going on. I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that I had a surgery on Monday and an outside wedding in the 90s on Saturday. I'm sure my immune system was totally fine. I'm okay. I mean, it's just sinus stuff. But anyway, this topic that I'm bringing up today is something that I have, man, I've been talking about it like in a roundabout way for a really long time, but I think it feels like it deserves to have its own like podcast, its own words, its own phrase, because it's a thing. And there's probably, y'all know that me and the clinical terms are not my favorite combination. So there's probably a clinical term for this, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm not going to use it because I don't know what it is. As much as I have the teachings and the learnings and I try to keep up on education, I just don't like using the words. They feel very, I don't know, like bland coming out of my mouth. I like to have a little pizzazz. You can't see my jazz hands, but they exist as I speak right now. So anyway, let's just talk, okay? The phrase is, and this is not safe for children and for work, sacred fuckery. I know. I mean, it's like, what? Those two words don't go together, but let me tell you how they do. This concept has kicked my ass more than a few times in my life. I feel like this is my unintentional preferred way to learn at this point. I mean, I feel like it just keeps happening. And I'm like, do you like this? Is this your favorite way to receive information? Because it seems to be the case. I don't have that, like I said, that clinical definition for it. I don't even really know how this phrase came to me, but it's what I call the shit in life that feels chaotic, painful, confusing, like a whole big mess, but still somewhere in there, it's doing something sacred for us, not to us, for us. Not because pain is super awesome. It's not, but pain often changes us in a way that only pain can get your attention deep enough to, right? Sometimes we will ignore something if it's a little bit uncomfortable, but we can't ignore it if it smashes us in the face. Y'all know, if you listen to the Freud's Angels podcast, you've heard me talk about the frying pan to the face. That feels like that happens to me because I can be very stubborn and I can be very determined. And I will sometimes, push until I get like a big giant smack in the face from the universe that's like, no, stop. And that's usually the beginning of my sacred fuckery journey. So anyway, maybe you've been there. You're burned out, you're grieving, you're untethered. You feel like, what the actual fuck is going on? Maybe somebody hurt you so badly that you're spiraling all over the place. But somehow, and we know this if we look back in history of our own lives, somehow when the smoke clears, we're like, oh, that changed my life. It taught me something life-changing. Sometimes you have to go looking for this, and I get it. And this is teetering on that phrase that everybody hates of everything happens for a reason. And I don't believe that everything happens for a reason in terms of like you deserve pain, but I do feel like there are ways to learn from everything that ever happens to us. And that's the power that we have over things that happen to us, right? Is to be able to transmute it into something magical in our lives, even if it sucks. So that's the space we're hanging out in today. Do we need a crisis to grow? No, right? We don't need that. I'm not saying that you need sacred fuckery, even though I definitely very often need it still. Working on it. Growth doesn't have to come through pain. There's so many times that it comes through joy. There's so many times that it comes through, a just kind of a calm place in life, when clients are feeling pretty decent, we do a lot of good work on things that are not urgent issues. So it's not the only way to learn, of course, but sometimes it does. Sometimes we have to fall apart for us to realize we're clinging to things that aren't even for us anymore, or they aren't even part of us anymore. That's what I've been trying to notice more when I'm choosing my tunnel vision over my expansive thinking, or even just my expansive, noticing. Because very often thinking requires something to already have been in your vision field, but noticing is being open. Noticing is letting your periphery, again, you can't see my hands, but they're like out here. Your periphery, your tunnel vision will make you not look in the periphery because you are so sure, maybe from fear, maybe from confidence, but you're so sure. So, that's the thing to notice. I'm noticing in my life is when I do that. So what are some of the examples of ways that sacred fuckery, comes around? A job that killed your soul. I mean, it's funny that my job that killed my soul is the job that I do now, but it was just the environment that I was in. But I had to get to like a breaking point in order to stop trying, right? I was going in and out of psychology and finance, right? Like you can't get any more opposite, it feels like, right? So I would go into purchasing because I just couldn't handle everything that went in, my counseling field. And then I would just kind of hate it because I wasn't getting to do what I love to do. I didn't hate really the job. I just hated not doing what I wanted to do. And then I would bounce back into the counseling field and start working there. And then I would get burned out because it wasn't the way that I needed to be doing it, and I learned through that process eventually, right? Because I was doing the tunnel vision thing, eventually that I just had to do it on my own. I had to figure it out on my own. And that sacred fuckery, it was a long-term sacred fuckery, but it worked. Sometimes it's about your identity, that you're the strong one or the tough guy or someone that always helps. I mean, the list goes on in the identity department of ways that sacred fuckery can show up. A way of living that look good on the outside, but once you get there, you're like, oh my God, I'm not feeling what I'm supposed to be feeling. And this is when like the universe or your nervous system or your shadow or just life comes through and lights it on fire. It sucks. If you're me, you fight it. Man, I'm a fighter. You try to put it back together. You maybe even try to spiritualize it way before it has taken the right form for transformation, right? Like, what is this trying to teach me? Like the second that it touches me, like, girl, you got to like do a whole lot more investigating of what's actually happening before you can go ahead and make those decisions, right? Look at what is going on around you. Look at how you got there. These are all things that have to happen before you try to spiritualize it. But somewhere in that rubble, there's a tiny, undeniable truth. Something had to die so something else could grow. Man, I'm very expressive today. My fist is in the air in like, success. But nobody really talks about the weird grief that comes with growth. And it's not nobody. I talk about it all the time. But I feel like not enough people are talking about it. Like, yeah, you become more aware of yourself. It means letting go of things that you thought you had to be. It sounds really good, right? It's like, oh man, I became more me. I've said that so many times. You become more you. You just don't really care about all the other stuff because you feel so good being you, or so good being in that position that really made you happy that you just don't think about all the other things that happened along the way because now you're too happy to think about it, right? But it can be disorienting also to do all this work. It can be sad. It can be terrifying. You might wake up one day and realize, I don't want to be the version of me I've been performing. Like that, right? Like it can come at like a wrecking ball. And then it's like, now what? Who am I? What does this mean? What is this life? That's like a really good awareness part of sacred fuckery, right? Like is when you hit awareness, however you got there, right? Like maybe you wake up one day, but maybe you are crying in the bathroom at work and you're like, who am I? Why am I here? Right? It's that awareness part. You're not who you were, but you're not quite who you're becoming because you're really trying to figure out all of that. So instead of trying to rush or fix the process, we have to kind of let it burn a little. And that's where, we're looking around, we're being the detective, all of that kind of stuff, letting this clear you out, right? Emptying out all of the bullshit that goes with it. Let it teach you what's actually yours underneath the programming. That's what really, to me, the Sacred Fuckery does. It's just like, no, we're just gonna like light this on fire, and then in the ashes you'll sift through and you'll find your precious things that survive the fire. I think that also it's really important to understand that healing isn't really always about becoming new, because when I was talking about that identity part before, I've sat down with more than one person who has felt like, I don't know who I'm going to become. And if I become this version, right, because they imagine some sort of weirdo version of themselves for some reason, everybody does it. They're like, that person doesn't fit in my life. I'm not going to be married anymore. I'm not going to have any friends. Like that version of me doesn't seem like it's compatible with all of the other things in my life. And that can be terrifying. So I want to remind you that it's not always about like becoming new drastically. Sometimes it's literally just remembering parts of you and letting them come out. It's not always this big drastic thing, right? Sacred Fuckery isn't just like a spiritual awakening and then you become a different person. There's a spectrum. You remember who you were before you were scared, before you built walls, before you made yourself acceptable or started masking or, perfect or just invulnerable, right? That was me, like my hard ass, like just to survive, like nobody, I don't need anybody. I don't want anybody here. Love is stupid, all of that kind of stuff, right? That's not me. I'm a big lover girl. Everybody knows this, but I've been hurt so much that I had put up all of these walls, and I needed a lot of Sacred Fuckery to take them down. And it happened. A lot of times this is when we end up doing our inner child work. We're looking for ways that our innate being was changed by someone else's belief system or discomfort, right? And sorry to be Freudian, but our parents are who raised us, so it's not like to blame them, but to just explain, like, yeah, well, if they believed something and it wasn't in alignment with who we were, they were going to try to teach us what they thought was right, and like, we're really digging into the idea of what's right is actually following what the person actually is. I mean, I can't believe it took until 2025 to think about this, but whatever, man, we're here. Sacred Fuckery doesn't always ask you to do like that whole rebrand. It asks us to surrender to something different, though. It's hardly ever clear. Scary, right? It's a trust fall. And unfortunately, that trust fall is also being asked of you when you're falling, right? So that makes it 10 times harder. It does also ask you to come home to yourself. If that can come to you, it helps with the trust. And I really like try to tell people that, right? Like we're coming home to ourselves. We're not creating a persona here. We're really becoming ourselves. We're looking into who we are. And that feels a little bit safer, I think. And it also helps us understand that it's like coming home is a process, right? We drive and we go past streets and we do all that stuff when we're driving home. It's the same thing. We don't just get home. We know that it has the potential, what it has the potential to do, changing us, to help us create more from what we are and not what we were taught to believe. Sounds awesome to hear it that way, right? Like, oh yeah, that's awesome. But the journey, Lord have mercy, it is a ride. Crying in the shower, journaling like a maniac, and for me, burning it like a pyro, setting boundaries that'll make you physically sick to enforce. We all know that feeling, right? Like just you're going to throw up, but you got to say it. I know that hit some of y'all, knowing that you have to do it, but the trauma belly is like, maybe we don't. Maybe we're going to throw up in their face when we try to tell them this. But under all that, as you're doing this process, something is rooting, something is anchoring and transforming you. It's cool. You're not breaking down, even though it looks that way, right? And feels that way. It's a destroy to rebuild concept. Knocking down parts of the building, down to the good bones, to build it the way that you want it. Like I love that show, Good Bones. I haven't watched it in a while, but I used to love that show because it was about looking at these old buildings and going, the bones are great. Everything else around it has kind of fallen apart. But, that inner structure is actually amazing. Let's use the inner structure and rebuild around it. That's exactly what we're doing, right? It's not a total breakdown all the time, and you can do it room by room. You don't have to just become a different person. You can say, hey, in my relationships, I'd like to transform. In my family relationships, I'd like to transform. I'd like to figure out something a little bit different with my work life. It doesn't have to be, just like your entire life at the same time. So let me just say this right now, though, in the middle of all this that we're talking about. You're not broken. You're not a fake person. You're not wrong for having been a version of you that maybe you don't feel like fits you or was contrived by somebody else. I don't want you to feel bad about this, as you're sitting here thinking maybe, right? Like you might not be thinking this, but anyway, you might be thinking like, oh my God, like who have I been? I've been a fake person my whole entire life. Like, no, you've been a masking person. You've been a person who was taught something and then you survived with that version of you, right? It's beautiful to be able to do that, right? Because it gets us to where we are right now, but we're done, right? You're human. We go through shifts, we change, and we let parts of us that once served us go, and we create lives that no longer, or we have created lives that no longer call for those things to exist. It's normal. It's part of life. If we're deciding to walk through it with intention, all of this is part of life. It's not failures and rebuilds. It's like demo day on purpose, right? I'm thinking of Chip Gaines. We know I love me some Chip Gaines. Loves demo day because he gets to create again. So maybe the chaos you're walking through right now is actually sacred. Can we think about that for 1 second right now? Just sit with the possibility. It's one of the favorite ways to calm my nerves when I'm in it, when I'm doing this work, because I have to do this work fairly often. I ask myself, if this is sacred fuckery, what are the possible outcomes that actually elevate me? It's not a perfect trick, right? I totally get that this is inviting spirals sometimes. And I've definitely invited spirals sometimes by doing it because my brain is like, I don't want to go to the positive possible outcomes. I need to go to the negative possible outcomes, right? Because my brain is wired to protect me, not to avoid dangerous things in the sake of hopefulness. But gosh, when I sit and get real with myself and I say, all right, do both sides. If you're going to do the bad thing that might happen, let's talk about the good things that might happen too. The ways that I might learn something here that I've needed to learn. And boy, does sacred fuckery show you what matters when you do that work. What's real, what you're not willing to abandon anymore, usually yourself. Sacred fuckery will mark you, but that's the point. You're not supposed to come out of it the same. You're supposed to come out more you. I really didn't understand that concept until I started to do the deep spiritual work, right? Like I was saying before. Every time I felt more me because it was unrecognizable from the brain's thoughts about who I was. The identity crisis was real for a hot minute. I wasn't sure what to think cognitively, but I know how I felt. I felt less tension between what I was doing and what I wanted to do. I felt less like I needed outside validation because it felt so good to be me, nothing else mattered. I know that that's hard to conceptualize, but if you trust me, and I hope you trust me, that's why you're listening, just know that that's real. Just stretch into the fact that why the hell would I lie to you about this? What kind of world domination comes with this talk that I'm having with you? That dissonance exists, right? Of your brain saying this feels weird but you're feeling but it doesn't feel weird, right? So that's part of it. I know this is a little bit of an oversimplification of sacred fuckery, but this is how I see it, or at least a snapshot of how I feel it works in our lives if we let it. It's not always easy to recognize when it's here because, again, it's not always going to be this big major door slam. Sometimes it is. Other times it's little nudges. Other times it's little, flutters in your intuition belly telling you just stop and think about that for a second. Is this really what you want? And if it isn't what you want, just sit with it for a second. You don't have to make this choice right this moment. Just sit with it and ask yourself, why? Is this because you've been denying yourself, abandoning yourself your whole life, and now you really want to be A, B, or C? Or is this you working on somebody else's programming and you just literally don't know what you would like to do instead? It has the opportunity always when this comes in to give you some growth if you just really sit with it and allow it to. And I know how hard it is. I know how hard it is. When I'm freaking out, this is one of the hardest things to do. I know I do it. My anxiety has been so much better over the last 5 years, but man, when it comes in, it's like my whole body, my brain is ruminating over and over and over again. I want to ask the same questions. I get it, right? Like I know that this is difficult work, but when you have a word to go with it, I think, or a phrase to go with it, it really helps us change the course of what we're doing, right? So what I was saying earlier, when I sit down and I go, if this is sacred fuckery, right? Because I need the if for some reason. That just needs to, be in there. Like it might be something else, but if, I don't know what else it would be now that I'm saying it out loud, it's a little silly. But if this is sacred fuckery, what can I learn? Because y'all know me, I can sometimes be an overachiever of things. That has come from, that is a trauma response, by the way. This is not something that I love to be. It's something that happens automatically for me. I want to fix it faster, right? So I'm like, if this is sacred fuckery, I want all the answers now. So then I might start ruminating on that, and that does happen. And I have to calm myself down and say, this is a process, and you're not going to figure it out in the next 10 minutes, even though you want to. It really helps me because the phrase helps me reground in reality and not just be floating out there in the what ifs and the fears and all of that kind of stuff. So again, a little bit of an oversimplification, very quick explanation, I guess, maybe, or example of what I believe sacred fuckery is, but I hope it helps. Y'all know I just want to help everybody. And if you're in the mess, don't rush the lesson. Like I was just telling you, I try to do. Again, I am not perfect. Just because I have these concepts doesn't mean I don't have to practice them when they come around, because I do. They come around less and less now, too, which means that I get less opportunity to practice it. Ugh. Just breathe. Let it work through you. Let it work through you. And I'm here if you need some help. Take care of yourselves. And as always, thank you for letting me be your guide today.
Thanks for listening. To learn more about what I do and how to work with me, head to thepsychgym.com to check it out. Keep lifting, y'all. It's worth it.